Wow, what a introduction. I hate these things, because then I feel like I have to live to crazy expectations. So hi, good afternoon. Hi. Thank you. Wow, this is so friendly. My name is Chenny, and I'm incredibly thrilled to be here with you today. But I'm also really worried that you won't like what I have to say. And I will tell you why. So for a living, I help teams discover new opportunities. And I do this by helping them navigate through change and uncertainty. Sounds cool, right? Well, it turns out most people initially feel the same way. You know, they think, oh, innovation, disruption, yeah. But then, you know, we get into it, and then they realize, okay, well, in order to innovate and in order to disrupt, I have to do this thing called embracing change. And then their faces completely change. So they go from something like this, just absolute joy and excitement, to terror. And it's like, Drake says 0 to 100 real quick. So in short, if you want people to like you, don't become a change consultant. But seriously though, why is our relationship with change so intense? Why do we run away from it like the plague? And it's a really, really good question. What I've learned is that we run away from change because we don't know how to approach it. We often feel a little bit paralyzed. Like, think about the most defining moments of your life, right? When you broke up with your high school sweetheart, when you lost your first job. I don't know about you, but like, I went into my room and I closed the door and I turned on Damien Rice and I cried myself to sleep. And this is how we often deal with change. So why is that? Well, scientists often refer to our brain as a prediction machine. And the other day I read this research study by a brain sciences unit in Cambridge, England, and they said this. They said, a human child is better at catching a moving ball than the most advanced robot today. Like, how crazy is that? A human child is better at catching a moving ball than the most advanced robot today. So I thought, I would look into our brains a little bit more, and this is what I found. Turns out our brains are organized into pyramids of neural processes. And it's these processes that collect all sorts of information. Using this information, we try to predict the future. And we like that feeling. That's what drives us to read the news, exchange gossip, and why we try to program those robots to try to predict how to catch a ball. But it's also why we don't like change. But here's the paradox here, is that in today's world, everything that we say, hear, and see suggests to us that we have no idea what's going to happen. Like, we have no clue what the future will hold. Now, the only thing that is certain is that there's going to be a lot of change. And we don't like that. So remember those news headlines? Well, by the time we read them, often they're outdated. And some of our favorite metrics, and in retail, for example, we use sales per square footage. They don't really make sense anymore because it turns out people now also shop online. But we haven't changed those metrics yet. We still use them. And so this is when our brain screams out for help. It tells us, hey, what is going on? Go and find yourself a rock to ground yourself around. Have you ever thought that? I know I have, a ton of times. But I want to offer another way of looking at change too. And so for a moment, you're going to have to bear with me. But I want you to close your eyes and reimagine your breakup with your first boyfriend or girlfriend. And I want you to reimagine feeling of loss, pain, disappointment. Got it? Okay. Now hold on to that feeling, remember it, and open your eyes. You're probably thinking, Chenny, this is why people don't like you. That's okay. Well, now I want you to remember what happened next, right? Likely, our relationships with other people in our lives got better. With our families, with our friends, we became stronger. You know, we as people, we probably became better people too. Like, you know, we got a gym membership and we became healthier, or we downloaded a meditation podcast and discovered patience. I know I have done all of those things. So in other words, change brings frustration and disappointment. But it also brings limitless opportunities for growth. How cool is that? And so in our world right now, we are seeing exponential amounts of change, specifically in technology and our society. And you would think that that would mean enormous amounts of opportunities realized in business. So I also looked into this, and a few years ago, this is what I found. This is a report that Richard Foster put together. And he looked at some of America's most top-performing companies based on data points from the S&P index. And as you can see, in the 60s, these companies were around for about 50 to 60 years. Now, that's looking like 15 or 20 years. So what this data tells us is that these companies are dying faster than ever, but also that it's not going to stop. So Foster summarized with this, and he said, today's leaders, turn on for a minute. Okay, try again? Sure. All right. Okay, back in action. And so Foster summarized with this. He said, today's leaders, we must embrace change and innovation rather than wait to become a victim of it. We must embrace change rather than become overwhelmed by it. Which begs the million-dollar question, how do we do that? And you know what, it's a really good question, and if you figure it out, please call me. My line is open for you all the time. So I spent countless hours of research, and I explored numerous frameworks and models with over 75 different clients. And it turns out, yeah, with exponential amounts of change does come exponential amounts of opportunity. And for those who do grasp that opportunity, it's very clear that our human capacity for innovation is just astonishing. I mean, based on every other talk you've seen today, that is a clear testament to that capacity. So, as a kid, have you ever wanted a superpower? Yeah? Well, guess what? This is it, okay? This is your human superpower. Every single one of us has the ability to turn uncertainty and ambiguity into limitless opportunities and innovations. Like, seriously, it's pretty good, you know? I got one on Superman. But it comes with a catch. And that catch is if we cannot contain our fear for change, then it turns out we throw away that superpower. And we do it really carelessly. Not only for ourselves, but also for those around us. So I want to talk to you about innovation, and I want to talk to you about change. And I believe that we should treat our ability to navigate change with the same level of importance as we do to our ability to read. And we should do this in our schools, in our workplaces, in our homes. That's really it. So often people ask me, why I'm so fired up and passionate about this stuff. Sometimes I wonder too. And so to help share with you why, I thought I'd tell you a couple childhood stories. Sound good? So I grew up in a neighborhood in East Vancouver. And no, it is not the fancy hipster East Vancouver that you know today with booming real estate prices. It is not overrun by coffee shops. My friend and I, we had this box that we used to play make-believe in because we couldn't find safe playgrounds. And this one day, our teacher said, "What did everyone do during the summer?" My friend said, "Well, Chenny and I went to Egypt." And the teacher said, "Oh, wow, tell us about your trip." And my friend said, "Well, Cleopatra, she's really good at singing and she's a crazy cat lady." And the teacher said, "Okay, how did she go to Egypt?" And my friend said, "Well, we have this box," and clearly the teacher was not that amused by this. As a kid, I also loved to play with Lego. This one day, my dad came home from work and he was clearly stressed out. And he asked me to build him a car. I was like, wow, I gotta make my dad happy, so I'm gonna build this car. So I looked at those Lego blocks and I was like, "You and me, buddy? We're doing this." And so I tried, and it turns out, you can't actually stick the wheel to the side of a Lego brick. Like, it doesn't work that way. The car doesn't move. And so I found this piece called an axle, and I stuck the wheels to it. I was not on the instructions page. And I'm sure we all have very similar childhood stories to this, right? Like hundreds of them. This is what our stories tell us. They tell us that as kids, we used experimentation and creativity to understand the world around us. And no one told us how to do it. No one said, "Hey, this is how you experiment. Hey, this is how you be creative." We just did it. In other words, as kids, we took chances. We didn't really think about how we were going to fail. We didn't know we tried. Yet the other day, I was with a friend of mine, and we were at a bar in Toronto. Like many friends, he said, "I have the world's best startup idea." I was like, "Okay, tell me about it." Turns out it was a really complicated idea. So I asked him, "Hey, can you just sketch it out on a napkin, those bar napkins?" And he said, "Oh, no, I can't do that. I'm not creative." And then it struck me. It's not that this guy can't draw circles and rectangles and lines. It's that he was trying to tell me, "Chenny, I don't want to sketch because I don't want to do it wrong." But if we don't allow ourselves to be wrong, then how are we supposed to approach this ocean of uncertainty that we face today? And so I think this is when we have to really consider a different approach. That's why I have a job, really. So for a living, I help executives, adults, and students be able to look at change in a new light, to be able to use their ability to create and ideate around some of the world's biggest problems. We tackle things like the refugee crisis, our senior care system, gun violence, and so on. And rest assured that these problems, they have lots of uncertainty. This is what it looks like. So what you might have noticed is that clearly the students were much happier. Guess what? It's not a coincidence. As it turns out, as adults, often we have lost our capacity to experiment, to play. It's really unfortunate. So I want to share a story with you. It's from a book called Art Review. There was a ceramics teacher, and on his first day of class, he said, "I am going to divide the class into two halves. Half of you will be graded by quantity, so the amount of pots you produce, and half of you will be graded by quality, who the pot is." And the procedure was pretty simple. said at the last day of class, I'm going to bring my bathroom scales from home, and I'm going to weigh your work. For the quantity group, 50 pounds equals an A, 40 pounds equals a B, and so on. And for the quality group, you only need to produce one pot. It just had to be perfect. So everyone went home and were busy creating pots. And on the last day, when it was time to grade the work, a curious fact emerged. Turns out the pots of the highest quality all came from those who were focused on quantity. Because for those who were focused on quantity, they were spending their entire time churning out huge piles of work, learning from their mistakes as they went. And that group focused on quality, well, they were obsessing on perfection. So they created all these grandiose theories, but had little to show at the end other than a stack of paper and a pile of dry clay. We see ourselves doing this all the time, right? I mean, we also have this strange desire for perfection. And because of that, we find that we end up going to a lot of meetings, we end up doing a lot of talking, but not a lot of doing. Yet when we embrace experimentation and when we embrace learning, as opposed to perfection, then we just get our hands dirty. Just do it. So what that tells us is that we need to experiment in order to make mistakes. But it is through those mistakes that we learn, and it is through learning that we grow. So why do we have such a hard time with it? And in order to really give you a good answer, we kind of have to reflect on our life experiences for a minute. When we go through our education system, we are told, don't get enough, failure is bad. At our first job, we want to impress our boss, so we try something. They tell us, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, risk is bad. And when we finally get a promotion, we finally get to manage other people, someone on our team comes to us with an idea, we also tell them, it's the way it's always been, trust me. So you can see this vicious cycle emerging here, right? Even though we know in our hearts that the world is changing, we're not blind. We know that as people, as an individual, that our needs and expectations have also changed. So therefore, there must be better ways of doing things. Yet, even when we enter a position of power, even when we can make decisions, we still don't rock the boat. And it's not because the boat doesn't need rocking. It's because we are afraid that that rocking might lead to failure. So the next time that you think, oh, another problem, full of uncertainty, thanks to this thing called change, I want you to think about it in a different way. I want you to start off by just acknowledging that, you know what? It's not my fault. My brain likes things it understands, and it doesn't like things it doesn't know. It's just biology, right? And then I want us to start just throwing ideas down. Without thinking about whether they're right or wrong, just put them down. Then we should just start experimenting and playing. If we've forgotten how, it's okay. We can just pull out our Legos and our cardboard boxes or whatever you want to. Remind ourselves of what that feels like. So now we're experimenting, right? And soon enough, we're making mistakes. This is when sometimes people quit. So don't. And remember that it's through these mistakes that we have these aha moments. That we start seeing these problems from a different perspective. That we start seeing them from a different lens. And that's when something really magical happens. It's when we completely shift our mindsets from one of fear of the unknown to excitement about the opportunities that lie ahead. And then suddenly we're thinking outside of the box. And suddenly we're innovating. And then we say, wow, I am really good at this. And it's because we've always done it. Just been a while. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chenny. Does anybody have any questions for her?
Yeah, great talk.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. You mentioned that when we get to a point where we feel that we should change and we know we should change, but we're having difficulty doing that, we should acknowledge that it's something that's biological. Are there any other best practices or things that you would suggest to kind of push us through those moments?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a whole practice called design thinking, which, by the way, is a cool thing of going to art school. Okay? I went to art school and no one appreciated it. And we have all of these tools. So one of them is pretty obvious, it's called storyboarding. So we just act it out. So if we have trouble playing out what the idea is, then we say, okay, let's just draw it out like a storyboard. And we often do this with our clients, where we say, okay, let's just say, here are the stakeholders, this is what they're doing, what does it feel like? And you just give it to someone else and say, what do you think? You get really good feedback that way. And then draw another storyboard. Looks like you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on app development to create an idea. And surprisingly, we find this to be the most cost-effective way to prototype things and to try things out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chenny. Another question. Sorry.
Yes.
Just a quick question about change
Yeah.
and relationship. Like I am an engineer, and at the same time, I'm also interested in entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
But some people recognize me as an engineer instead of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I talk about business to people, and people like don't believe me because they know me as an engineer instead of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
They know I don't know about business, but that's what they know. Sometimes it's kind of like ruining the relationship between you and your friends because you try to share your ideas to your friends, but they're just looking down at you because they don't believe in you in that way. So how do you approach that as an entrepreneurship?
That's a pretty hard question. No, I told you, I'm not really good at answers, right? Well, I think it's really hard to talk about ideas, which kind of goes back to the whole thing of just trying versus talking. It's because when we talk about things, we end up talking about it for eons. You know, like I mean, I don't know if you've ever done an internship, but do you know how like death by meetings is like a real thing? Well, yeah, it's the same way with your friends, right? So the best way to approach it is to not even ask them for their thoughts on your idea. It's just to do it really simply, however you know how. Like you can take cardboard paper and just kind of create little mock-ups of what your idea is if you want to as a starting point. And just watch for people's reactions. Because how people react to your idea, if you choose to pursue it, is more important than what they have to say about it. And yeah, and then you basically apply the same way that you do to find customers in the business context, right? Or to find sponsors or to find investors, it's the same thing. You just show them and you ask them what they think.
Thank you.
No worries.
Anything else?